Sigmund Freud. Table of contents. Who is Sigmund Freud? Sigmund Freud's theories. Sigmund Freud and psychoanalysis. Major works by Freud. Major contribution of Sigmund Freud to modern science. Lastly, Freud's accomplishments and awards.
Some of you may wonder who was the famous Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud was born on May 6, 1856, Freiburg, Moravia, an Austrian empire. His mother Amalia Freud, his father Jacob Freud, and he has a wife named Martha Bernays, and he have children Mathilde, Jean Martin, Oliver, Ernst, Sophie, and Anna. They moved to Vienna in 1860 and 1938. He obtained a medical degree in 1881 in the University of Vienna. About the time he was 15, liberal political atmosphere evaporated and anti-Semitism because virulent, shattering assimilation. Freud and his family left Vienna to escape Nazi persecution. He moved to England in 1938 and died in 1939.
Here are some theories proposed by Sigmund Freud. The conscious mind, preconscious mind, and the unconscious mind. Each of these levels corresponds to and overlaps with Freud's ideas of the id, ego, and superego. The conscious mind consists of all the thoughts, memories, feelings, and wishes of which we are aware of at given moment. The preconscious consists of those things we could pay conscious attention to if we so desired, and where many memories are stored for easy retrieval. Next is the unconscious. The unconscious consists of those things that are outside of conscious awareness, including many memories, thoughts, and urges of which we are not aware of. Freud proposed that personality was made up of three key elements: the id, the ego, and the superego. The id is a part of the unconscious that contains all the urges and impulses, including what is called the libido, a kind of generalized sexual energy that is used for everything from survival instincts to appreciation of art. The id is also kind of stubborn, for it responds only to what Freud called the pleasure principle. If it feels good, do it, and nothing else. The ego, according to Freud, is the part of the id which has been modified by the direct influence of the external world. The ego is the only part of the conscious personality. It's what the person is aware of when they think about themselves, and is what they usually try to project towards others. The ego develops to mediate between the unrealistic id and the external real world. It is the decision-making component of personality. Ideally, the ego works by reason, whereas the id is chaotic and unreasonable. The third personality is the superego. The superego incorporates the values and morals of society which are learned from one's parents and others. It develops around the age of 3 to 5 years during the phallic stage of psychosexual development. The superego is seen as the purveyor or rewards, feelings of pride and satisfaction, and punishments, feelings of shame and guilt, depending on which part is activated. Freud's theory about the life and death instincts. The life instinct, also called eros. It is focused on the preservation of life, both of the individual and of the species. This drive compels people to engage in actions that sustain their own lives, such as looking after their health and safety. It also exerts itself through sexual drives, motivating people to create and nurture new life. The death instinct, according to Sigmund Freud, is the human tendency to destructive, risky, or otherwise negative behavior. This is also called thanatos. The death instinct may seem like a strange concept to most people, and Freud himself was initially resistant to the idea. Although he found it a counterintuitive concept at first, Freud found that the death drive accurately describes the motivation behind certain risk-taking and harmful behaviors, directed inward toward oneself or outward towards others. The death drive or death instinct brings about our eventual demise. Freud's theory of defense mechanisms. Freud's defense mechanisms are ways of coping with reality and maintaining self-image by hiding or transforming unpleasant thoughts and feelings. Repression. Repression is an unconscious mechanism employed by the ego to keep disturbing or threatening thoughts from becoming conscious. Next is the denial. Denial involves blocking external events from awareness. If some situation is just too much to handle, the person just refuses to experience it. Next is the projection. This involves individuals attributing their own unacceptable thoughts, feelings, and motives to another person. Next is the displacement, satisfying an impulse, for example, aggression, with a substitute object. Regression. This is a movement back in psychological time when one is faced with stress. Sublimation, satisfying an impulse, example is aggression, with a substitute object in a socially accepted way. Rationalization. Rationalization is a defense mechanism proposed by Anna Freud, involving a cognitive distortion of the facts to make an event or an impulse less threatening. We do it often enough on a fairly conscious level, and we provide ourselves with excuses. Reaction formation. Reaction formation, which Anna Freud called believing the opposite, is a psychological defense mechanism in which a person goes beyond denial and behaves in the opposite way to which he or she thinks or feels. Introjection. Introjection, sometimes called identification, involves taking into your own personality characteristics of someone else, because doing so solves some emotional difficulty. Identification with the aggressor. Identification with the aggressor is a defense mechanism proposed by Sander Frangi and later developed by Anna Freud. It involves the victim adopting the behavior of a person who is more powerful and hostile towards them.
Freud's psychosexual stages of development. Freud proposed that personality development in childhood takes place during 5 psychosexual stages, which are the oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital stages. During each stage, sexual energy or libido is expressed in different ways and through different parts of the body. Freudian theory suggests that as children develop, they progress through a series of psychosexual stages. At each stage, the libido's pleasure-seeking energy is focused on a different part of the body. First is the oral stage. The libidinal energies are focused on the mouth. Number 2 is the anal stage. The libidinal energies are focused on the anus. Number 3 is the phallic stage. The libidinal energies are focused on the penis or clitoris. Number 4 is the latent stage, a period of calm in which little libidinal interest is present. Number 5 is the last one is the genital stage. The libidinal energies are focused on the genitals. These are called psychosexual stages because each stage represents the fixation of libido, roughly translated as sexual drives or instincts.
Sigmund Freud and psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis is a set of psychological theories and methods of therapy founded by Sigmund Freud. Psychoanalysis revolves around the belief that everyone has unconscious thoughts, feelings, desires, and memories. Psychoanalysis therapy is used to release repressed emotions and experiences, and the goal is to make unconscious thoughts conscious. This kind of therapy is meant to find the root cause of the problem and cure it. Psychoanalysis is based on Freud's theory that people can experience catharsis and gain insight into their state of mind by bringing the content of the unconscious into conscious awareness. Through this process, a person can find relief from psychological distress. Development of psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis was a theory first and is a therapy as well. It's a type of therapy that is used to treat depression and anxiety disorders. This type of therapy promotes awareness of unconscious, unproductive, recurring patterns of emotion and behavior, and this allows previously unconscious parts of yourself to come together to promote healing, healthy emotions and behavior, and creative expression. Psychoanalysis was developed by Sigmund Freud, who faced a lot of criticisms over his work and theories. However, psychoanalysis was incredibly influential for modern-day therapy. The idea that talking about your problems could help you feel relief heavily impacted the current approach to treating mental illness. The impact of psychoanalysis on mental health. Psychoanalysis focuses on the influence of repressed impulses, internal conflicts, and childhood traumas, and how they affect mental health. Psychoanalysis as a therapy aims to modify your personality by focusing on redirecting your habits. And to improve these conflicts and resolve your problems, psychoanalysts use free association and dream analysis, analyze your resistance and defense mechanisms, and work with you through your feelings.
Major works by Freud. Freud wrote prolifically about theory and technique of psychoanalysis and its implications for how we understand society, culture, and ourselves. His major psychoanalytic works are The Interpretation of Dreams, 1900. German, Die Traumdeutung, is the founder of psychoanalysis, in which the author introduces his theory of the unconscious with respect to dream interpretation and discusses what would later become the theory of Oedipus complex. The Psychopathology of Everyday Life, 1901. Freud examines the psychological basis for the forgetting of names and words in speech and in writing, and other similar errors. 3 Essays on the Theory of Sexuality, 1905. The Sexual Aberrations analyzes the various perversions to challenge commonplace ideas about human sexuality. Jokes and the Relation to the Unconscious, 1905. Why do we laugh? Freud argued in this groundbreaking study of humor that jokes, like dreams, satisfy our unconsciousness desire. Beyond the Pleasure Principle, 1920. A tendency for individual behavior to be directed toward immediate satisfactions of instinctual drives and immediate relief from pain or discomforts. Civilizations and its Discontents, 1931. Civilization's a problem and it makes us unhappy. Freud felt humans were aggressive creatures by nature, that we delight in exercising our aggression and hurting one another.
Some major contribution of Sigmund Freud to modern science. Psychoanalysis as a science of mind. A major contribution of Freud was his attempt to reduce the human mind to its basic parts and study their relationship to each other and their functions. This was the first approach of its kind, and it laid the foundation of the modern psychology. Freud breaking up of the mind into the 3 parts, the id, ego, and superego. This study of dreams is a good example of an experimental field in psychology where we have good reason to assume that the method is correct. Another major contribution of Freud to the modern science is his theories of development. Freud's theories on development explored how the human mind evolved from infancy to adulthood. He believed that our behaviors are governed by unconscious desires and thoughts. In other words, our conscious mind is only a small portion of the entire mind. He used the term id to refer to the part of the human mind that is present from birth.
Freud's accomplishments and awards. In year 1900, publishes The Interpretation of Dreams. In year 1901, publishes The Psychopathology of Everyday Life. In year 1905, publishes 3 Essays on Sexuality. In year 1908, attends the first International Psychoanalytical Congress in Salzburg, and in year 1920, publishes Beyond the Pleasure Principle, Intro to Concept of Death Instinct, and in year 1923, publishes The Ego and the Id and was diagnosed with cancer, and he was awarded the Goethe Prize in 1930 for his contributions to psychology and German literary culture, and he was made the honorary foreign member of the British Royal Society of Medicine in 1935.